A black woman challenged a billionaire over a tomato, and he fell first. I'm a billionaire. I've negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions. But I'd never been in a real fight until a beautiful woman grabbed the same tomato I was reaching for at a Portland farmer's market and refused to back down. I should have just let her have it. Instead, I challenged her to rock, paper, scissors. Worst decision of my life. Or maybe the best. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the last time a story made you feel something real. Made your heart race. Made tears fall without permission. Made you remember why being human is so beautifully complicated. That's what we do here at CJ Stories. Whether you're returning or just discovering us, welcome home. This is your safe space for tears, laughter, hope, and everything in between. Today's story will take you somewhere unexpected. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel. And I promise you, you won't see the ending coming. But here's the thing, the magic only works if you stay till the very end. No skipping. Just you, me, and a story that might just change how you see the world. If it moves you, let me know you're here, subscribe, like, and share this with someone whose heart needs touching today. Ready? Let's step into today's story. Portland, Oregon. June 15, 2024. Saturday morning, 9:47 a.m. Robert Williams, 37 years old and worth approximately $2.3 billion, was about to get into his first actual fight. Over produce. He'd been standing in front of the tomato display at the Portland Farmers Market for exactly 90 seconds, which he knew because he'd been timing himself on everything lately. 90 seconds to decide on tomatoes. 2 minutes to choose coffee. 5 minutes maximum for any interaction that didn't require a contract. His therapist said it was a control issue. His assistant said it was just how he was wired. Robert figured it was probably both. The tomatoes were perfect. Heritage varieties, the kind his private chef in Seattle used to source from some exclusive farm in Yakima. Deep red, slightly misshapen, the type that actually tasted like something. He'd been in Portland for exactly 1 week, hiding from his own life in a renovated loft in the Pearl District, and this was his first solo grocery run in probably 5 years. He reached for the best tomato in the bunch. The absolutely perfect one. Another hand got there first. "Excuse me," a woman's voice said. Not rude, just matter of fact. "I had my eye on that one." Robert looked up. The woman was beautiful in a way that made his carefully timed morning routine completely irrelevant. Black woman, 30-something, with natural hair pulled back in a loose bun that was somehow both casual and elegant. She wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans, but carried herself like she owned the entire market. Warm brown skin, expressive eyes, and a slight smile that suggested she was used to getting her way. "I was here first," Robert said, which was true. He'd been standing at this booth for 90 seconds. He had data. "And I've been coming to this market every Saturday for 6 years, she countered. "Carl saves me the best tomatoes." "Don't you, Carl?" The farmer, a weathered man in his 60s, looked between them with clear amusement. "Now Stella, you know I can't play favorites." "You absolutely play favorites. I buy 30 pounds of produce from you every single week." 30 pounds? Robert said before he could stop himself. She turned those expressive eyes on him fully. "I run a catering business." "What's your excuse for tomato hoarding?" "I'm not hoarding. I'm purchasing one tomato. The best tomato." "Is there a rule against buying the best one?" "There's an unspoken courtesy. You're new here, so I'll give you a pass, but generally, regulars get first pick." Robert felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Amusement, maybe. Or possibly annoyance. He'd negotiated billion-dollar deals, faced down venture capitalists and corporate boards, but somehow this woman arguing with him over a tomato was the most engaging conversation he'd had in months. "I don't see your name on it," he said. "Are you seriously going to fight me over a tomato? You're the one who made this a fight." She laughed. Actually laughed, bright and genuine. "Fair point. Okay, new guy. How about this? We split it." "Split a tomato?" "Unless you need the whole thing for some kind of billionaire smoothie or whatever it is you tech people do with produce." Robert blinked. "How did you know I'm in tech?" "Please. You're wearing a hoodie that probably cost more than my car payment, you've checked your Apple Watch 4 times since I started talking, and you have that slightly uncomfortable look people get when they're used to having assistants do everything for them." She tilted her head. "Am I wrong?" She wasn't wrong. "I just moved here," he said instead of confirming. "From Seattle." "Let me guess. Taking a break from the tech grind? Finding yourself? Discovering what really matters?" "Something like that." "Well, welcome to Portland. We're quirky, we take our farmers market seriously, and we don't let strangers take our tomatoes without a fight." She held out her hand, the tomato still in her other one. "I'm Stella." Stella Parker. Robert Williams. Her handshake was firm, confident. Her hand was warm. Nice to meet you, Robert Williams from Seattle. Now about this tomato. You're really not going to let this go? I need it for a dinner party tonight. Capri salad. You can't make capris with subpar tomatoes. I was going to make bruschetta. Also requires quality tomatoes. They stared at each other. Carl was definitely laughing now, not even trying to hide it. Tell you what, Stella said. Rock, paper, scissors. Winner takes the tomato. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? She didn't. She looked completely serious, hand already forming a fist. Robert couldn't remember the last time someone had treated him like a normal person. Not a billionaire, not a CEO, not Robert Williams who'd founded TechCore Solutions at 25 and sold it for an obscene amount 7 years later. Just some guy arguing over produce at a farmer's market. It was wonderful. Fine, he said. Rock, paper, scissors. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Robert threw rock. Stella threw paper. Paper covers rock, she said, grinning triumphantly. I win. Best 2 out of 3. Don't be a sore loser. I'm not. I'm negotiating terms. This isn't a boardroom. Everything's a negotiation. She studied him for a moment, and Robert had the distinct feeling he was being assessed in a way that had nothing to do with his bank account or business acumen. Okay, she said finally. Best 2 out of 3. But if I win, you also have to buy a pound of those heirloom carrots and actually eat them, not just put them in your fancy fridge and forget about them. And if I win? You won't. Confident. I have 3 younger brothers. I'm undefeated in rock, paper, scissors since 1997. They played again. Stella won. Then they played the tiebreaker. Stella won that too. Told you, she said, claiming her tomato with obvious satisfaction. Thanks, Carl. Put it on my usual order? You got it, Stella. Carl was outright grinning now. He turned to Robert. Son, you should probably buy something before you leave. Maybe those carrots? Robert found himself smiling. Actually smiling, not the corporate smile he'd perfected for investor meetings and press conferences. I'll take 2 pounds of the carrots. And whatever other tomatoes you recommend, since apparently the best one is spoken for. These here are almost as good, Carl said, bagging up 3 large tomatoes. And they'll be perfect for bruschetta. How much? $12. Robert pulled out his wallet, acutely aware that he'd flown to Portland on a private jet just 1 week ago but was now genuinely pleased about spending $12 on vegetables. Stella was still there, watching him with those expressive eyes. You really are new to this whole normal life thing, aren't you? That obvious? You look surprised that tomatoes only cost $12. In my defense, I haven't personally bought groceries in a while. How long is a while? 5 years, maybe 6. She whistled low. Okay, that's worse than I thought. No wonder you don't know farmers' market etiquette. I'm learning. Clearly. But she was smiling. Enjoy your bruschetta, Robert Williams from Seattle. She started to walk away, her canvas bag already filling with produce from various stalls. Robert watched her go, feeling something he hadn't felt in longer than he cared to admit. Interest. Genuine, uncomplicated interest. Wait, he called out. She turned back. Yeah? The dinner party tonight. The one you needed the tomato for. Is it? Are you catering it or attending it? Catering. It's what I do. Parker Catering and Events. We specialize in intimate dinners, small weddings, that sort of thing. How small? Why, are you planning a wedding? No. Just curious about the business model. She laughed again. Of course you are. We do events from 10 to 100 people. Anything bigger and the quality suffers. I'd rather do smaller events well than big events poorly. That's smart. Thanks. I think so. She shifted her bag to her other shoulder. Was there something else, or are you just making small talk? Robert made a decision. The kind of quick, instinctive decision that had made him successful in business but that he rarely applied to his personal life anymore. Have coffee with me. Now? If you have time. Stella tilted her head, considering. I have about 30 more minutes before I need to start prepping for tonight. There's a place just outside the market, Stumptown Coffee. You probably passed it on your way in. The one with the line out the door? That's the one. Worth the wait, though. I don't usually do lines. Right. Billionaire smoothies and no waiting. How could I forget? But her eyes were teasing, not mean. Come on, Seattle. I'll show you how normal people get coffee. They walked through the market together, Stella stopping occasionally to examine produce or chat with vendors who clearly knew her well. Everyone called her by name. Everyone smiled when they saw her. She belonged here in a way Robert hadn't belonged anywhere in years. "So you really come here every Saturday?" he asked as they joined the line at Stumptown. "Every single one. Rain or shine." Carl wasn't kidding about the 30 pounds of produce. "I do all my shopping for the week here, plus whatever I need for events. That's a lot of cooking. I love it. Always have. My mom says I was cooking before I could walk, which is probably an exaggeration, but not by much." "Your mom lives here? In Portland?" "Yeah. Over in Laurelhurst. My whole family's here, actually. Parents, 3 brothers, my grandmother. It's a whole thing." The line moved forward. Robert noticed that Stella didn't check her phone once. She was just present, existing in the moment without the constant digital tether he'd become so dependent on. "What about you?" she asked. "Family in Seattle?" "No family anywhere, really. Parents retired to Arizona 5 years ago. No siblings." "That sounds lonely." "It's efficient." She gave him a look that suggested she saw right through that particular defense mechanism. "Efficient isn't the same as good." "No," he admitted. "It's not." They reached the front of the line. Stella ordered something complicated involving oat milk and an extra shot. Robert ordered black coffee, which made her laugh. "Of course you drink it black. What's wrong with black coffee?" "Nothing. It's just very on brand for you. You've known me for 20 minutes. How do you already think I have a brand?" "Everyone has a brand. Yours is competent, controlled, probably has color-coded spreadsheets for everything." She wasn't entirely wrong, which was unsettling. They found a small table outside, the Portland morning warming up nicely. Saturday market crowds flowed around them, a mix of families, couples, and people who looked like they took the city's unofficial slogan, "Keep Portland Weird," very seriously. "So what brought you to Portland?" Stella asked, cupping her coffee with both hands. "And don't say work. You already told me you're taking a break." Robert considered how much to share. Usually, he kept his personal life private, carefully controlled. But there was something about Stella that made him want to be honest. "I sold my company 6 years ago," he said. "Made more money than I knew what to do with. Spent the last few years investing, consulting, sitting on boards. All the things successful tech entrepreneurs are supposed to do. But somewhere in there, I forgot why I started in the first place. The work became about the work. Deals, meetings, strategy sessions. I looked up one day and realized I didn't actually like my life very much." Stella nodded slowly. "So you came to Portland?" "I came to Portland. Rented a loft, told my assistant to only contact me for emergencies, and decided to figure out what actually makes me happy." "Any progress on that?" "Well, I just spent 10 minutes fighting over a tomato with a complete stranger and genuinely enjoyed myself, so that's something." She smiled into her coffee. "Glad I could help with your journey of self-discovery. What about you? How does someone end up running a catering business in Portland? Long story or short version?" "I have time." Stella took a sip of her coffee, gathering her thoughts. "I went to culinary school in San Francisco, worked in restaurants for a few years. Realized I hated the restaurant grind but loved cooking for people. Started the catering business 5 years ago with basically no money and a whole lot of optimism. And it worked out? Eventually. There was a rough patch a couple years ago where I almost had to shut down. Economic downturn, lost some major clients, the usual small business nightmares. But I stuck with it, scaled back, focused on quality over quantity. The 10 to 100 person model. Exactly. Now I do what I love, make enough to live comfortably, and don't have to answer to anyone but myself and my clients." "That sounds nice." "It is." She studied him over the rim of her coffee cup. "You miss it, don't you? Running something." "How did you?" "You got this look when I talked about my business. Like you were analyzing the model, thinking about growth strategies. You can take the CEO out of the boardroom, but you can't take the boardroom out of the CEO." Robert laughed. "My therapist says the same thing, less eloquently." "You have a therapist. That's good. You sound surprised. Most men I know would rather eat glass than admit they're in therapy. I'm trying to work on the whole emotionally unavailable workaholic thing." "How's that going?" "Well, I'm having coffee with someone I just met instead of spending my Saturday reviewing investment portfolios, so better than usual." Stella's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. "That's my reminder. I need to get going if I'm going to have everything ready for tonight." "Right. The dinner party with the stolen tomato." One tomato. "You hustled me. I beat you in a fair game of rock, paper, scissors." "That's not hustling, that's skill." They stood, gathering their empty cups. Robert didn't want this to end, this easy conversation with someone who treated him like a normal person. Can I see you again? He asked. Stella looked at him, really looked at him. Are you asking me out, Robert Williams? I think I am. Why? The question caught him off guard. Why? Yeah. Why do you want to see me again? And don't say because I'm beautiful or interesting or whatever line you usually use. I want the real reason. Robert thought about it. About how she'd made him laugh, made him feel present, made him forget to check his watch even once during their conversation. Because talking to you is the most normal I've felt in years, he said honestly. Because you beat me at rock, paper, scissors and didn't apologize for it. Because you know what you want and you're not afraid to go after it, even if it's just the best tomato at the farmer's market. Stella smiled, slow and genuine. Okay. That's a good answer. So is that a yes? That's a maybe. Give me your phone. He handed it over. She typed in her number and handed it back. Text me, she said. We'll see. We'll see? I don't date just anyone, Seattle. You're going to have to work for it. Then she walked away, her canvas bag full of produce, leaving Robert standing outside Stumptown Coffee with her number in his phone and a smile on his face. His watch buzzed. A reminder about a conference call he'd scheduled before deciding to take this break from his life. Robert looked at it, looked at Stella's retreating figure, and made another quick decision. He canceled the call. Then he texted her. When can I see you again? The response came 30 seconds later. You're eager. I like that. Next Saturday. Same place, same time. Don't be late. Robert Williams, 37 years old and worth $2.3 billion, had just gotten a date with the woman who'd beaten him in rock, paper, scissors. His therapist was going to love this. The week between Saturday and the following Saturday felt longer than most of Robert's quarterly earnings reports. He caught himself checking his phone more than usual, rereading Stella's single text message like it contained some kind of hidden code. It was Wednesday, June 19, 2024, when he broke down and texted her again. Question. Do I need to prepare for another rock, paper, scissors tournament or is this an actual date? Her response came an hour later. Depends. Are you going to try to steal my tomato again? I didn't steal anything. I had equal claim to that tomato. Keep telling yourself that. And yes, it's an actual date. Meet me at the market at 9:30. We'll walk around, then I'll show you the good breakfast place nobody knows about. Everybody knows about it, don't they? Yep. But tourists think it's just for locals, so they don't go. Robert smiled at his phone, sitting in his mostly empty loft that cost more per month than most people's mortgages. He'd furnished it minimally since moving to Portland 2 weeks ago. A bed, a couch, a desk he never used. He kept telling himself it was temporary, that he'd go back to Seattle eventually, back to his real life. But the truth was, he didn't miss it. Not even a little. Saturday morning, June 22, 2024, arrived with typical Portland weather. Overcast but not raining, the kind of gray that locals didn't even acknowledge. Robert got to the farmer's market at 9:15, which was eager but he didn't care. Stella was already there. She stood at a flower stall, examining a bunch of dahlias with the same intensity she'd given the tomatoes last week. She wore jeans again, this time with a green button-up shirt that somehow made her eyes even more striking. Her hair was down today, natural curls framing her face. Robert's stomach did something complicated. You're early, she said without turning around. I can feel you hovering. How did you know it was me? Lucky guess. She turned, holding the dahlias. What do you think? Too much? For what? My mom's birthday is next week. She loves dahlias, but I can never tell if I should go bright or subtle. Those are bright? To you, maybe. To my mom, these are the subtle option. You should see the ones she plants in her garden. They're practically neon. Get the bright ones, Robert said. If she loves them, go all in. Stella smiled. Good advice. See, you're learning. She purchased 3 bunches of the brightest dahlias available, enough to fill someone's entire living room. Okay, Seattle. Ready for the full farmer's market experience? I thought I got that last week. That was the tourist version. Today I'm showing you how it's really done. For the next hour, Stella led him through the Portland farmer's market like a general commanding troops. She knew every vendor, every product, every secret about where to find the best of everything. Robert learned that the mushroom guy in the back corner had a hidden stash of morels if you asked nicely. That the bread baker's wife made jam that never made it to the display table unless you pre-ordered. That Carl the tomato farmer had a daughter studying agricultural science at Oregon State. You really do know everyone, Robert said as they left the honey stand with 2 jars of something called meadowfoam honey that apparently only existed in Oregon. 6 years of Saturdays adds up. Plus, I genuinely like people. You'd be surprised how far that gets you. I wouldn't, actually. I've sat through enough business dinners to know that likability matters more than competence sometimes. Cynical. Realistic. Maybe both. She stopped at a produce stand, examining green beans with a critical eye. These are perfect. I need about 5 pounds. While the vendor weighed out her order, Robert watched Stella interact with the older woman running the stand. They talked about the weather, about the woman's grandson's baseball game, about a recipe for green bean almondine that Stella promised to email her. It was casual, genuine, effortless. Robert couldn't remember the last time he'd had a conversation that wasn't transactional. Okay, Stella said, her bags now significantly fuller. Breakfast time. You ready? I've been ready since you mentioned it on Wednesday. So you were thinking about this date? I think about a lot of things. Smooth deflection. Come on. The breakfast place was called Tin Shed, tucked into a corner that Robert had walked past 3 times during his first week in Portland without noticing. It had a small patio with mismatched chairs and a menu that looked like it had been printed sometime in the early 2000s. This place has the best breakfast burrito in Portland, Stella said as they sat down. And before you ask, yes, I've tried all the other places that claim to have the best breakfast burrito. This one wins. What makes it the best? You'll see. They ordered. Stella got the burrito she'd been promoting. Robert got the same, plus coffee that came in mugs so thick they could probably survive a nuclear blast. So, Stella said, sitting back in her chair. Tell me something real. Real? Yeah. Last week you gave me the highlight reel. Tech company, sold it, made money, having an existential crisis. I want something real. Robert turned his coffee mug in his hands. What do you want to know? Why'd you really sell the company? And don't say it was the right business decision. I want the actual reason. He'd expected small talk, maybe some flirting. This was more direct than he was used to outside of therapy. I was engaged, he said finally. 6 years ago. To a woman named Catherine. We'd been together for 3 years, and it seemed like the logical next step. Logical. That's romantic. I was 31. Romance wasn't really my priority. What happened? She left me 4 months before the wedding. Said that I loved my company more than I'd ever love her, and she was probably right. I threw myself into work after that, grew the company, got acquisition offers. Sold it because I thought maybe if I wasn't constantly working, I'd figure out how to be a person again. And did you? Not yet. But I'm working on it. The food arrived. The breakfast burritos were enormous, stuffed with perfectly scrambled eggs, crispy potatoes, cheese, salsa, and something green that Robert couldn't identify but tasted incredible. Okay, he admitted after the first bite. This is the best breakfast burrito I've ever had. Told you. Stella took a bite of her own, somehow managing to make eating a massive burrito look elegant. Your turn. Ask me something real. The rough patch with your business. What happened? Economy tanked, I lost 3 major clients in 2 months, and I'd overextended myself trying to grow too fast. I had to lay off my only 2 employees, move my operation into my apartment, and basically start over from scratch. That must have been hard. It was terrifying. I was 33, watching everything I'd built fall apart. My mom kept telling me to get a real job, my brothers thought I should give up, and my bank account was screaming at me in all caps. But you didn't give up. No. I scaled back, focused on what I was actually good at, stopped trying to be everything to everyone. Turns out doing 10 events really well is better than doing 50 events poorly. That's smart business. Thanks. I learned it the hard way. She wiped salsa from her fingers. My dad would have been proud, I think. He always said quality over quantity. Would have been. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack, completely unexpected. He was only 62. I'm sorry. Thanks. It was hard. Still is sometimes. He was my biggest supporter, always believed I could do anything I set my mind to. She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. He would have liked you, actually. Why's that? He appreciated people who worked hard, who built things. He was a carpenter, spent his whole life working with his hands. He would have respected what you did, even if he'd probably give you grief about selling out. Robert laughed. Fair criticism. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Robert noticed that Stella had a small scar above her left eyebrow, barely visible. That she ate her burrito methodically, working from one end to the other. That she smiled at the server when he refilled their coffee without being asked. Can I ask you something? Robert said. Go for it. Why'd you say yes to this? You could tell I was out of my depth last week. You could have just taken your tomato and left. Stella considered this, tilting her head slightly. Honestly? You looked lonely. Not sad, exactly. Just alone in a way that seemed like it had been going on for a while. That obvious? To me, yeah. I've gotten pretty good at reading people. Comes with the catering territory. You learn to spot the person at the party who doesn't want to be there, the couple that's about to break up, the family that's holding things together with duct tape and prayers. And you saw what when you looked at me? Someone who forgot how to be anything except successful. It was uncomfortably accurate. Plus, Stella added, her smile returning, you were kind of cute when you got all competitive over a tomato. I figured you might be interesting if you loosen up a bit. Am I? Interesting? Jury's still out. But this breakfast burrito is definitely helping your case. After breakfast, they walked through the Alberta Arts District, Stella pointing out galleries and shops that Robert had never noticed despite walking the same route 3 times during his morning runs. You run past all of this and never stopped? Stella asked, incredulous. I run with headphones. I'm usually on calls. On calls during your run? It's efficient. It's sad. My therapist agrees with you. I like your therapist already. They stopped in front of a small gallery featuring local artists. Stella studied a painting of Mount Hood at sunset, something shifting in her expression. My dad and I used to hike Mount Hood every summer, she said quietly. Started when I was 8, kept doing it until he got too sick to hike anymore. That was the summer before he died. That's a good tradition. It was. I haven't been back since he passed. Feels wrong to go without him. Robert understood that. The weight of absence, the way some things became impossible after you lost someone. Maybe someday you'll be able to go again, he offered. Maybe. She turned away from the painting. Sorry. Didn't mean to get heavy. Don't apologize. I asked you to be real, remember? Fair point. She checked her phone, then looked back at him. I have to start prepping for a wedding reception tonight. 50 people, very picky bride, the usual chaos. Right. Of course. They walked back toward the market where Stella's car was parked, a 10-year-old Honda Civic that had clearly seen better days but was immaculately maintained. This is me, she said, loading her bags into the back seat with practiced efficiency. Robert didn't want this to end. The morning had passed too quickly, and he already knew the rest of his Saturday would feel empty by comparison. Can I see you again? He asked. And not wait another week? Stella leaned against her car, studying him. You really want to? I really want to. Why? You keep asking me that. Because I want to make sure you know the answer. Robert stepped closer, not invading her space but closing the distance between them. Because I like how I feel when I'm with you. Like maybe I'm not as lost as I thought I was. Stella's expression softened. Okay. That's a good answer. So is that a yes? I'm catering a small dinner party Tuesday night. 20 people, very casual, at a house in Eastmoreland. Come by around 8. Things should be winding down by then, and if you're lucky, there might be leftover dessert. I'm supposed to just show up? I'll tell the hosts I have a friend stopping by. They won't mind. Plus, you can see me in my natural habitat. Make sure you're not getting involved with someone who's secretly terrible at their job. Somehow I doubt that's a risk. Smart man. She opened her car door, then paused. Oh, and Robert? Yeah? Wear something normal. Not a hoodie that costs more than my rent. I don't own anything normal. Then go buy something. There's a Target on 82nd. They have regular person clothes. She drove away, leaving Robert standing in the parking lot of the Portland Farmers Market, already planning a trip to Target for the first time in his adult life. Tuesday, June 25, 2024, arrived after what felt like the longest 3 days of Robert's recent memory. He'd gone to Target, as instructed, and bought jeans and a plain blue button-up shirt that the college-aged sales associate had assured him was perfectly normal, dude. The house in Eastmoreland was beautiful, a restored craftsman with a wraparound porch and the kind of garden that suggested serious dedication. Robert could hear conversation and laughter from the backyard as he approached. He texted Stella. I'm here. Feel weird just walking in. See the gata? Follow the lights. You'll find me. The backyard was strung with cafe lights, casting everything in a warm glow. About 20 people mingled around scattered tables, the dinner clearly finished but conversation still flowing. Robert spotted Stella immediately. She was in motion, directing 2 young servers with the kind of calm efficiency that suggested she did this in her sleep. She'd changed since he last saw her, now wearing black pants and a white chef's coat that somehow made her look both professional and approachable. When she saw him, her face lit up. You came, she said, walking over. You invited me. I know, but you seem like the type who might get cold feet. I went to Target. I'm committed now. She laughed, looking him over. You look normal. I'm impressed. The sales associate helped. Even better. Come on, I'll introduce you to the hosts, then you can help me load equipment. The hosts were a couple in their 50s celebrating their anniversary. They praised Stella's food effusively, insisted Robert try the remaining dessert, a berry tart that was indeed incredible, and didn't seem at all bothered by his presence. An hour later, after the guests had left and the servers had been paid and sent home, Robert helped Stella load her catering equipment into her car. You don't have to help, she said, handing him a stack of serving platters. I want to. You're a billionaire. Isn't there some rule about billionaires and manual labor? I started my company in a garage. I know how to carry things. They worked in comfortable silence, creating an efficient system without discussing it. When everything was loaded, Stella stood back and surveyed her car with satisfaction. Another successful event, she said. The food was incredible. That tart especially. Thanks. It's my grandmother's recipe. She taught me to bake when I was 7. Robert leaned against the car next to her. The night was cool, typical for late June in Portland. Stella had taken off her chef's coat, revealing a simple black t-shirt underneath. Thank you for inviting me, he said. Thank you for coming. And for the manual labor. Anytime. She looked at him, really looked at him. You mean that, don't you? Yeah. Ido. That's kind of dangerous, Seattle. I might actually take you up on it. I hope you do. They stood there, the space between them charged with something Robert hadn't felt in years. Want, yes, but also something more complicated. The beginning of something that might actually matter. I should go, Stella said, but she didn't move. Probably. I have an early morning tomorrow. Brunch for 30 at a baby shower. Sounds busy. It is. Neither of them moved. Robert, yeah? I'm really glad you fought me over that tomato. He smiled. Me too. Stella stepped closer, rising up on her toes, and kissed his cheek. It was brief, barely more than a brush of lips against skin, but it sent electricity through his entire nervous system. Text me, she said, pulling back. I will. I mean it. Don't make me wait another 3 days. Tomorrow? Tomorrow works. She got in her car and drove away, and Robert stood in the driveway of a stranger's house in Eastmoreland, touching his cheek where she'd kissed him like a teenager after his first date. His phone buzzed. A text from Stella. That was nice. Let's do it again soon. Robert typed back immediately. When? Eager. I still like that. Friday? Actual dinner, just the two of us? Yes. Absolutely yes. Pick me up at 7. I'll text you my address. And Robert? Yeah? This time, you plan it. Show me what you've got. Robert Williams, 37 years old and completely out of his depth, had 4 days to plan a date that would impress a woman who ran circles around him in every way that mattered. He couldn't wait. Robert had never been nervous about planning a date in his life. He'd taken Catherine to Michelin-starred restaurants, weekend getaways in wine country, a surprise trip to Paris for her 30th birthday. Planning romantic gestures had always been a matter of money and competent assistance. But Stella was different. She'd see through expensive and obvious. She'd told him to show her what he had, and he was pretty sure she didn't mean his bank account. It was Wednesday, June 26, 2024, when inspiration struck at the most unlikely place, his therapist's office. You seem distracted, Dr. Patricia Chen observed from her chair across from him. I have a date Friday. I'm trying to figure out where to take her. And this is causing you stress? She's not impressed by the usual things. The usual things being? Expensive restaurants. Grand gestures. Money, basically. Dr. Chen smiled slightly. And this bothers you? It challenges me. There's a difference. Is there? Because you look bothered. Robert shifted in his seat. She's a chef. A caterer. Taking her to some fancy restaurant feels like making a teacher grade papers on their day off. So what does she like? That stopped him. What did Stella like? He'd spent 2 Saturdays with her, one breakfast, one evening helping her pack up from an event. He knew she loved her family, missed her father, took her business seriously, and could beat anyone at rock, paper, scissors. But what did she actually enjoy? I need to figure that out, Robert said. That sounds like a good start. That evening, Robert texted Stella. Question. What's your favorite thing to do in Portland that has nothing to do with food or work? Her response came 20 minutes later. Oddly specific question. Why? Research. For Friday? Maybe. I like the Japanese garden. Haven't been in months because I'm always working weekends. Noted. You're being mysterious. I don't trust it. Good. Keep you on your toes. I'm already on my toes. I'm catering a corporate lunch for 60 tomorrow. These people want vegan and gluten-free and keto options. Do you know how hard that is? I don't, actually. It's very hard. I'm basically serving them dressed-up salads and hoping no one notices. Robert smiled at his phone. They'll love it. You're good at what you do. How do you know? You've only had my food once. That tart was perfect. And the dinner guests couldn't stop talking about the meal. You're being nice. I don't know how to handle you being nice. Get used to it. There was a longer pause before her next message. Okay. I can do that. Friday, June 28, 2024, was perfect Portland summer weather. Sunny, 75 degrees, the kind of day that made people forget about 9 months of gray skies. Robert picked up Stella at her apartment in the Hawthorne district at exactly 7 o'clock. She lived on the second floor of a converted house, the kind of place with character but probably questionable plumbing. When she answered the door, Robert forgot whatever greeting he'd planned. She wore a simple sundress, yellow with small white flowers, and sandals. Her hair was down, curls loose around her shoulders. She'd put on makeup, not much, just enough to highlight features that didn't need highlighting. You're staring, she said. You look beautiful. Thanks. You clean up pretty well yourself. She grabbed a light cardigan from a hook by the door. So where are we going, mystery man? You'll see. I don't like surprises. Yes, you do. You're smiling. That's nervousness, not excitement. I'll take it. They drove to the Japanese garden in Washington Park, arriving just as the evening crowds were thinning. Robert had called ahead, made arrangements, pulled exactly one string involving a donation that would fund their education program for the next 2 years. I haven't been here since before my dad died, Stella said as they walked through the entrance. We used to come in spring to see the cherry blossoms. We don't have to stay if it's too much. No, I want to be here. I've just been avoiding it, I think. Felt easier than dealing with the memories. They walked through the garden slowly, following stone paths past carefully manicured landscapes that looked like living paintings. Stella stopped frequently, pointing out plants or design elements, explaining the symbolism behind certain arrangements. How do you know all this? Robert asked. My dad. He loved Japanese design philosophy. The idea that everything has a purpose, that beauty comes from intentionality. He applied it to his carpentry work. He sounds like he was a remarkable person. He was. She touched the petals of a late-blooming azalea. He would have liked this. You bringing me here. They found a bench overlooking the koi pond, the water reflecting the golden early evening light. Robert had arranged for the garden to stay open an extra hour, just for them, but he didn't mention that part. This is nice, Stella said, sitting close enough that their shoulders touched. Really nice. Good. I was worried you'd think it was too much. It's thoughtful. There's a difference between too much and thoughtful. They sat in comfortable silence, watching koi swim lazy patterns through the water. Robert noticed that Stella's hand rested on the bench between them, close to his own. He took a chance and covered her hand with his. She didn't pull away. Instead, she laced her fingers through his, the gesture simple and perfect. Can I ask you something? Stella said after a while. Anything. What happened with your engagement? You said Catherine left because you loved work more than her. Was she right? Robert had been expecting this question eventually. Partially. I did work too much. But there was more to it. Tell me. She wanted me to be someone I wasn't. Or maybe someone I used to be before the company took off. She fell in love with the guy working out of his garage, having big dreams. She didn't love the guy who actually achieved them. That must have hurt. It did. But looking back, I don't think I loved her the way she deserved either. I loved the idea of her. The partnership, the future we were supposed to build. But I didn't love her enough to change, to find balance, to prioritize her over deals and board meetings. Do you regret it? I regret hurting her. I don't regret the ending. We would have made each other miserable. Stella squeezed his hand. At least you're honest about it. Trying to be. My therapist says emotional honesty is important. Your therapist is smart. They stayed until the garden staff politely indicated it was time to leave. Robert drove them to a small Italian restaurant in northwest Portland, the kind of place with 6 tables and a menu that changed daily. How did you find this place? Stella asked, studying the handwritten menu. Asked around. Wanted somewhere good but not pretentious. You did well. Dinner was easy, conversation flowing between them like they'd known each other for years instead of 2 weeks. Stella told him about her brothers, about growing up in a loud, chaotic household where everyone talked over each other and meals lasted for hours. Robert told her about being an only child, about parents who loved him but never quite understood his drive to build something from nothing. Do you talk to them much? Stella asked. Your parents? Once a month, maybe. They're happy in Arizona. golf, retirement community activities, that whole thing. They don't really get why I sold the company. They think I should be running something. What do you think you should be doing? I'm still figuring that out. And in the meantime? In the meantime, I'm having dinner with you. That feels like a pretty good use of my time. Stella smiled into her wine glass. Smooth. I have my moments. They shared tiramisu for dessert, trading bites and stories. Robert learned that Stella had wanted to be a dancer when she was 7, that she'd broken her arm falling out of a tree when she was 10, that her grandmother still called her Stella Belle and she secretly loved it. It was after 10 when they left the restaurant. Robert drove Stella home, parking in front of her building, not wanting the night to end. This was really perfect, Stella said, unbuckling her seatbelt but not moving to get out. Thank you. Thank you for saying yes. I'm glad I did. They sat in the car, streetlights casting shadows across Stella's face. Robert wanted to kiss her more than he'd wanted anything in recent memory, but something held him back. Not fear, exactly. More like the sense that this mattered, that he shouldn't rush it. Stella seemed to read his mind. You can kiss me, you know. I know. But you're not going to? Not tonight. Why not? Because when I kiss you, I want it to be because the moment's right. Not because we're sitting in a car at the end of a date. Stella tilted her head, studying him. You're full of surprises, Robert Williams. Good surprises? The best kind. She leaned over and kissed his cheek, the same spot she'd kissed before, and Robert wondered if she knew what that did to him. Good night, Seattle. Good night, Stella. He waited until she was safely inside before driving away, already thinking about when he could see her again. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of Saturday morning farmers markets, weeknight dinners, and long phone calls that stretched past midnight. Robert learned Stella's schedule, the rhythm of her work life. Busy weekends, occasional weeknight events, rare free evenings that they both guarded jealously. It was July 20th, 2024, a Saturday afternoon, when everything shifted. They'd spent the morning at the market as usual, then walked along the Willamette River, talking about nothing and everything. The day was warm, summer fully established, and Portland was showing off. I need to tell you something, Stella said as they sat on a bench overlooking the water. Robert's stomach tightened. Nothing good ever followed those words. Okay. I got an offer. A really good offer. For what? To cater a tech conference in Seattle. 3 days, 2,000 attendees, corporate budget that's basically unlimited. That's amazing. Congratulations. It's in September. And they want me to consider relocating. Opening a Seattle branch of my business. Robert processed this. Seattle. Where he'd come from, what he'd been hiding from. What did you tell them? That I'd think about it. It's a huge opportunity, Robert. The kind of thing that could take my business to the next level. But you don't want to leave Portland. I don't know what I want. She turned to face him fully. A month ago, I would have said no immediately. Portland is home, my family is here, my whole life is here. But now there's you, and you're from Seattle, and I don't know if you're even staying in Portland long term. I haven't thought that far ahead. Exactly. And I can't make a major business decision based on someone who hasn't thought about where they want to be. She was right. Completely, frustratingly right. How long do you have to decide? Robert asked. 2 weeks. They want an answer by early August. They sat in silence, the easy comfort between them now strained with uncertainty. Robert knew he should say something, should tell her to stay or promise to figure out his own life or something that would make this easier. But he didn't know what he wanted. Not really. He'd come to Portland to escape, to figure out who he was outside of work and success and expectations. Adding Stella to that equation felt like both the best and most complicated thing that had ever happened to him. I need to get going, Stella said finally. I have a wedding tonight. 50 people, very traditional, lots of family drama I'm probably going to get pulled into. Right. Of course. They walked back to where her car was parked, the silence between them heavy with unsaid things. At her car, Stella turned to face him. I really like you, she said. I need you to know that. I really like you too. But I also need to think about my future. My business. I can't put my life on hold waiting for you to figure out yours. I know. I wouldn't ask you to. Good. But she looked sad saying it. Robert reached for her hand. Can I see you tomorrow? I have my mom's birthday dinner. Family only thing. Monday? I'm catering a corporate event. Tuesday? Stella pulled her hand back gently. Maybe we should take a few days. Give each other space to think. I don't want space. I know. But I think we need it anyway. She got in her car and drove away, leaving Robert standing on a Portland Street corner, realizing that he'd just let something important slip through his fingers because he couldn't commit to anything beyond the present moment. His phone rang. His former business partner, Marcus, calling from Seattle. Robert. Finally. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I've been busy. Too busy to return calls? That's not like you. Listen, I have a proposition. New venture, right in your wheelhouse. Sustainable tech, huge market potential. I need your expertise and your investment. I'm not investing in anything right now. Just hear me out. This is big, Robert. The kind of thing you'd regret missing. I said no. You're not even curious? Robert looked at the river, at the city he'd been hiding in for 6 weeks, at the life he'd been trying on like borrowed clothes. Send me the details. I'll look at them. That's my guy. I knew you couldn't stay retired for long. Nobody walks away from this life, Robert. It's who we are. After hanging up, Robert sat back down on the bench overlooking the water. Marcus was wrong. He could walk away from that life. He had walked away from it. But could he walk toward something else? Toward someone else? Toward a future that wasn't planned and controlled and carefully managed? He didn't know. And that uncertainty felt like it might cost him the best thing that had happened to him in years. His phone buzzed. A text from Stella. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left like that. Can we talk tomorrow after my mom's dinner? Yes. Anytime. I'll be here. I know you will. That's part of what scares me. Robert stared at that message for a long time, trying to understand what she meant. But all he could think about was the way her hand felt in his, the sound of her laugh, the possibility that he was about to lose her because he couldn't figure out how to be a person instead of a business strategy. His phone rang again. Dr. Chen, his therapist, returning his earlier call. Robert. What's going on? Your message sounded urgent. I think I'm falling in love with someone and I have no idea what to do about it. There was a pause. Then, well, that's progress, at least. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels terrifying. Good. That means it matters. Robert closed his eyes, letting the Portland summer evening wash over him, and wondered when everything had gotten so complicated. Sunday, July 21st, 2024, felt longer than most months Robert had lived through. He spent the morning running along the Willamette, then the afternoon staring at his laptop without actually reading anything on the screen. Marcus had sent over the investment details. Sustainable tech, impressive projections, exactly the kind of opportunity he would have jumped on a year ago. Now it just felt like a distraction. At 6:30 that evening, Stella texted. Mom's dinner is wrapping up. Can you meet me at Laurelhurst Park in 30 minutes? There's a bench by the duck pond. Robert was there in 20. The park was quiet, families packing up picnics as the evening cooled. Robert found the bench easily, then spent 10 minutes trying to figure out what he was going to say. He was 37 years old, had negotiated billion-dollar deals, but had no idea how to tell someone he was falling for them. Stella arrived carrying a container. My mom sent leftovers. She made her famous mac and cheese. I told her about you. You did? Yeah. She asked why I looked distracted. I said I met someone. Stella sat down next to him, leaving a careful space between them. She wants to meet you. What did you tell her? That it was complicated. Is it? Complicated? Stella opened the container, offering him a fork. I don't know. Is it? They ate mac and cheese straight from the container, passing the fork back and forth like they'd done it 100 times before. Robert had eaten at restaurants with Michelin stars, but nothing had ever tasted as good as this. Your mom's a great cook, he said. She taught me everything. Well, her and my grandmother. Food was always how we showed love in my family. Big dinners, everyone around the table, lots of noise and laughter. Sounds nice. It is. It was especially nice tonight, actually. My brothers brought their families. My nephew just turned 5, couldn't stop talking about dinosaurs. My niece is starting college in the fall, wants to be an engineer. Stella set down the fork. And I sat there watching all of it, thinking about how much I'd miss if I left. So you're not taking the Seattle offer? I didn't say that. She turned to face him. I'm thinking about it. Really thinking about it. The money is incredible, Robert. I could hire staff, expand the business, maybe even open an actual restaurant eventually. It's everything I've been working toward. But it means leaving my family. My mom, my brothers, the nephews and nieces. Starting over in a city where I don't know anyone except you, and I don't even know what we are. There it was. The question he'd been avoiding. What do you want us to be? Robert asked. I don't know. What do you want? I asked first. Stella smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Fair. I want to know if this is real. If you're actually interested in building something with me or if I'm just a distraction while you figure out your life. You're not a distraction. Then what am I? Robert took a breath. This was it. The moment where he either said what he felt or lost her completely. You're the reason I wake up excited for Saturday mornings. You're the person I want to tell about my day, even when nothing interesting happened. You're the first thing I think about in the morning and the last thing I think about before I sleep. Stella's eyes widened slightly. Robert, I know we've only known each other for 5 weeks. I know that's not enough time to make big decisions. But I also know that I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Maybe ever. That's a lot. Too much? I don't know. Maybe. She looked down at her hands. My dad used to say that when you know, you know. He proposed to my mom after 3 months. They were married for 38 years before he died. Do you believe that? When you know, you know? I want to. But I'm also practical. I run a business. I make decisions based on data and projections and realistic expectations. And what do those tell you? That this is risky. That falling for someone I barely know, someone who hasn't committed to staying in Portland, someone who's still figuring out what he wants from life, is a terrible business decision. Robert's chest tightened. And what does your heart tell you? Stella met his eyes. That I'm already falling and I'm terrified. They sat with that admission, the air between them charged with possibility and fear in equal measure. I got a call yesterday, Robert said. Business opportunity in Seattle. My old partner wants me to invest, get involved in a new venture. Are you going to do it? I don't know. Part of me wants to. It's familiar, comfortable. I know how to be that version of myself. And the other part? The other part wants to stay here. Figure out who I am when I'm not CEO Robert Williams. Maybe see where this thing between us goes. That's not a plan, Robert. That's waiting for life to happen. I know. Stella stood up, walking to the edge of the pond where ducks floated in lazy circles. Robert followed, standing beside her. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. And I need you to really hear it. Okay. I can't be the reason you stay in Portland. And I can't base my career decisions on a relationship that might not work out. I've built my business from nothing, survived it almost failing, and I'm finally at a place where I can actually grow. I can't sacrifice that. I'm not asking you to. Aren't you? If I turn down Seattle and stay here, won't part of that be because of you? Robert wanted to argue, but she was right. What do you want to do? I want to take the Seattle job. I want to expand my business. I want the opportunity and the growth and everything that comes with it. She turned to face him. But I also want you. And I don't know how to have both. Come to Seattle. I'll come back too. We'll figure it out together. You're not ready to come back. You said it yourself, you're still figuring things out. So I'll figure them out in Seattle instead of Portland. That's not how it works. You came here to escape, to reset. If you go back now because of me, you'll resent it eventually. Maybe not today or next month, but someday you'll look at me and wonder what your life would have been like if you'd finished what you started. Robert knew she was right. Hated that she was right. So what do we do? He asked. I don't know. They stood by the pond as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Families packed up and left. Ducks settled in for the night. And Robert felt something precious slipping away. I should go, Stella said finally. I have an early morning. Bridal shower brunch. Okay. Robert. Yeah? This isn't goodbye. I just need some time to think. To figure out what I actually want without you looking at me like that. Like what? Like I'm the answer to everything. She kissed his cheek, grabbed the empty mac and cheese container, and walked away. Robert watched her go, standing alone by the duck pond as darkness settled over Portland. The next week was the longest of Robert's life. He and Stella texted occasionally, brief messages about their days, nothing substantial. She was busy with work. He was busy pretending to consider Marcus's investment opportunity while actually just existing in a fog of indecision. On Thursday, July 25, 2024, Robert finally called Dr. Chen for an emergency session. I'm going to lose her, he said, sitting in her office for the first time in 2 weeks. Tell me what happened. He explained everything. The Seattle offer, the conversation by the pond, Stella's very reasonable point that she couldn't base her career on a relationship that might not work out. She's being smart, Dr. Chen said when he finished. I know. And you're upset because you want her to choose you over her career. No. I want her to have both. I just don't know how to make that possible. What do you want, Robert? Not what you think you should want, not what would be most convenient. What do you actually want? Robert had been avoiding that question for 6 weeks. Since moving to Portland, since meeting Stella, since his entire carefully controlled life had been turned upside down by a woman fighting him over a tomato. I want to be with her. I want to wake up next to her and hear about her day and help her load catering equipment and argue about produce at farmers markets. Then tell her that. It's not enough. She needs more than feelings. She needs commitment, a plan, some kind of certainty. Can you give her that? I don't know. I came to Portland to figure out my life, and all I figured out is that I'm falling in love with someone who deserves better than my uncertainty. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Robert, you've spent your entire adult life building things. Companies, investments, wealth. You're good at having a plan, at controlling outcomes. But relationships don't work that way. I know. Do you? Because it seems like you're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, before you commit to anything. But life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Robert sat with that. So what do? You decide what matters most. Then you do whatever it takes to build a life around that. After the session, Robert drove to the Eastmoreland house where he'd first helped Stella pack up from an event. He sat in his car, staring at the house, remembering how she'd looked that night. Confident, capable, completely in her element. His phone rang. Stella. Hey, he answered. Hey. Where are you? Eastmoreland. Where we had that dinner party. That's random. I was thinking about that night. About helping you load equipment and feeling useful for the first time in months. There was a pause. I made a decision. Robert's heart stopped. Okay. I'm taking the Seattle job. I talked to my mom about it, my brothers. Everyone thinks it's the right move for my business. When do you leave? I'd need to be there by September 1st. That gives me 5 weeks to wrap things up here, find a place in Seattle, hire staff. That's fast. I know. But if I'm doing this, I need to commit fully. No half measures. That makes sense. Another pause. Come with me. What? Come to Seattle. Not for me, for you. Go back and face whatever you've been running from. Figure out what you want your life to look like. And maybe, while we're both there, we can figure out what this is between us. Robert closed his eyes. What if I'm not ready? Then you're not ready. But at least we'll be in the same city while you figure it out. You'd want that? To have me there while I'm still a mess? You're not a mess, Robert. You're just human. And yeah, I'd want that. I'd want you there. For the first time in a week, Robert felt something other than dread. Okay. Okay? Yeah. I'll come to Seattle. We'll figure it out together. He could hear Stella's smile through the phone. Really? Really? I don't have a plan yet, and I can't promise I won't be terrible at this, but I want to try. That's all I'm asking. When can I see you? Tomorrow night? I'm catering a small anniversary party, should be done by 9. I'll be there. Robert? Yeah? Thank you. For being willing to try. After they hung up, Robert sat in his car for a long time, letting the decision settle over him. He was going back to Seattle. Not running away this time, but running toward something. Toward her. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Any decision on the investment? Robert typed back. Not interested. But I'll be back in Seattle in a few weeks. Let's grab coffee. Then he called his landlord about breaking his lease, called his assistant about finding a place in Seattle, and started making a list of everything he needed to do in the next 5 weeks. For the first time since selling his company, Robert Williams had a plan. It wasn't about business or investments or building the next big thing. It was about building a life with someone who made him want to be better than just successful. It was about being ready. Friday, July 26, 2024, arrived with the kind of clarity that only came after making a real decision. Robert spent the morning packing up his minimally furnished Portland loft, realizing he'd lived there for 6 weeks and barely left an imprint. A few clothes, some books, his laptop. Nothing that suggested he'd actually been living there versus just existing. His phone rang. His mother, calling from Arizona at 8 in the morning, which was unusual. Robert, darling. I haven't heard from you in weeks. Are you still alive up there in Portland? I'm alive, Mom. Just busy. Busy with what? I thought you retired. I'm not retired. I'm taking a break. For 6 weeks? Your father thinks you're having some kind of crisis. Robert smiled despite himself. Maybe I am. But it's a good crisis. That doesn't make any sense. I met someone, Mom. There was a pause. A woman? Yes, a woman. Her name is Stella. She's a chef, runs her own catering business. She's smart and funny and completely unimpressed by anything I've accomplished professionally. She sounds terrifying. She is. In the best way. His mother laughed, genuinely delighted. Well, this is unexpected. When do we meet her? I don't know yet. We're still figuring things out. She's moving to Seattle for work, and I'm going back too. I thought you hated Seattle. I don't hate Seattle. I hated who I was becoming there. But maybe I can be different this time. Because of this woman? Because of me. She's just helping me see it. After hanging up, Robert finished packing and drove to meet Stella at a coffee shop in Selwood. She was already there, sitting outside with 2 cups in front of her. I ordered for you, she said as he sat down. Black coffee, boring as always. Consistent, not boring. Same thing. But she was smiling. So you're really doing this? Coming to Seattle? I'm really doing this. I called my assistant this morning. She's looking at apartments for me. Where? I don't know yet. Where are you looking? Capitol Hill, maybe. Somewhere central, close to the new commercial kitchen I'll be using. Then I'll find something in Capitol Hill. Stella raised an eyebrow. You're going to move to my neighborhood? Is that weird? A little. But I kind of like it. They spent the next hour making plans. Stella would go to Seattle in 2 weeks to finalize her commercial kitchen lease and meet with the conference organizers. Robert would close up his Portland loft and head back a few days after her. In the meantime, they'd spend as much time together as possible. I have something to tell you, Robert said as they walked along the Willamette after coffee. And you're probably going to think it's too much. That's a concerning start. I want to invest in your business. Not take it over, not control anything. Just provide capital so you can expand the way you want to without the stress of financing. Stella stopped walking. Robert, before you say no, hear me out. You're good at what you do. Great, actually. You deserve the resources to grow without constantly worrying about cash flow. This isn't charity. It's a legitimate investment in a business I believe in. How much are we talking about? Whatever you need. 50,000, 100,000, more if the expansion justifies it. That's a lot of money. Not to me. And before you get all independent about it, consider this, you'd be doing me a favor. I need to invest in things that matter. Your business matters. Stella walked to the railing overlooking the river, her back to him. Robert waited, giving her space to think. Okay, she said finally, turning around. Okay? But we do this right. Legal contracts, clear terms, professional boundaries. I won't mix business and personal beyond this initial investment. Fair enough. And if we break up, the business arrangement continues unchanged. I won't lose my funding because we couldn't make a relationship work. Agreed. I'll have my lawyer draft something. Stella stepped closer. You're really serious about this? About the investment? Yes. About you? Absolutely. She kissed him then, standing by the Willamette River on a Friday morning in late July. It was soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Robert was smiling. What? Stella asked. I've been wanting to do that since the farmer's market. What took you so long? Waiting for the right moment. And this is it? Every moment with you feels right. That's cheesy. I know. I'm working on being more expressive. My therapist is very proud. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparations and stolen moments. Robert spent his days closing up his Portland life and his evenings with Stella. They went to movies, took long walks, had dinner with Stella's mother who interrogated Robert with the precision of a detective before declaring him acceptable. She likes you, Stella said after the dinner on August 3, 2024. How can you tell? She asked me about my financial planning and retirement strategy. That means she's thinking long term. If she didn't like you, she wouldn't care about your 401k. Your family is intense. You have no idea. Wait until you meet all my brothers at the same time. Should I be worried? Terrified. But they'll love you once they realize you make me happy. August 10, 2024, was Stella's last Saturday at the Portland Farmers Market before her move. Robert went with her, helping carry bags as she said goodbye to vendors she'd known for 6 years. Carl the tomato farmer gave her a hug and a bag of the best tomatoes of the season. You come back and visit now. Don't let Seattle keep you away. I won't. I promise. As they walked through the market one last time, Stella's hand in his, Robert realized how much had changed in 8 weeks. He'd come to Portland lost and left with direction. He'd met someone who challenged him, supported him, and made him want to be better. Thank you, he said. For what? For fighting me over that tomato. Stella laughed. Best decision I ever made. They moved to Seattle within days of each other. Stella went first, diving into preparations for the tech conference and setting up her new commercial kitchen. Robert followed on August 20, 2024, moving into a loft in Capitol Hill 3 blocks from where Stella had found a small apartment. Seattle felt different this time. Not like a place he was escaping from, but a place he was choosing. He met with Marcus for coffee and politely declined the investment opportunity, but they talked about other possibilities. Consulting work, maybe. Mentoring startups. Things that would keep him engaged without consuming his life. You seem different, Marcus said. Calmer. I am. Portland changed you. Stella changed me. The tech conference in mid-September was a massive success. Robert attended as Stella's guest, watching her command a team of 15 people with the same quiet competence he'd seen that first night in Eastmoreland. She handled problems without breaking stride, managed difficult clients with grace, and created food that had people talking for days afterward. You're staring, she said during a rare quiet moment. I'm admiring. It's distracting. Good. After the conference ended, Stella's business exploded with opportunities. Corporate clients, private events, catering contracts that would keep her busy for months. She hired 3 full-time staff members and 2 part-timers. The investment Robert had made was already proving worthwhile. But the success also meant less time together. Stella worked long hours, often 7 days a week. Robert tried to be understanding, tried to remember what it was like building something from the ground up. It was October 10, 2024, when things came to a head. Robert had made dinner reservations at a nice restaurant in Queen Anne, something he'd been planning for 2 weeks. Stella texted at 6 saying she'd be late. There was a crisis with a wedding cake. At 7:30, she texted again. The crisis was bigger than expected. Could they reschedule? Robert sat alone at the restaurant for another 30 minutes before leaving. He wasn't angry, exactly. Just tired. Tired of feeling like he was always waiting, always understanding, always coming second to her work. He went to her apartment. She wasn't there yet, but he had a key. He let himself in, sat on her couch, and waited. Stella arrived at 10, looking exhausted. I'm so sorry. The wedding cake disaster turned into a complete menu restructure and the bride was having a meltdown and I couldn't just leave. I know. Are you mad? No. Just thinking. About what? Robert stood up. About how we keep doing this. You working all the time, me waiting around, both of us pretending this is sustainable. Stella's expression shifted. What are you saying? I'm saying I moved to Seattle for you. I invested in your business. I've been patient and understanding and supportive. But I need to know if there's actually space for me in your life or if I'm just fitting into the gaps between events. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time we spent a full day together? When was the last time you weren't distracted by work? Stella, sit down here, Bake. I'm building something here, Robert. You of all people should understand that. You did the same thing with your company. And it cost me my engagement and 6 years of my life where I forgot how to be anything except successful. So now you're saying I need to choose? My business or you? No. I'm saying we need to figure out how to make both work. Because right now, it feels like I'm the only one trying. They stood in her apartment, the air heavy with frustration and exhaustion. Robert knew this moment mattered, that what they said next would determine everything. Stella spoke first. You're right. What? You're right. I've been so focused on making the Seattle expansion work that I've been treating you like an afterthought. That's not fair, and I'm sorry. Robert hadn't expected that. Oh. I'm scared, Robert. Scared that if I slow down, everything will fall apart. That I'll fail and have to go back to Portland with nothing to show for it. You won't fail. You don't know that. I know you. I know how good you are at what you do. And I know that working yourself into the ground isn't sustainable. Stella sat down on her couch, suddenly looking very small. What do we do? Robert sat next to her. We figure it out together. You hire more help, delegate better, set actual boundaries with clients. And I stop being passive, stop waiting for you to have time for me and start being more present even when things are busy. That sounds like a lot of work. Relationships are work. Good ones, anyway. How do you know? You said yourself your last relationship failed. Because I didn't try hard enough. I let work consume everything. I'm not doing that again. Stella leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. I really am sorry about tonight. I know. And I'm sorry for ambushing you when you're exhausted. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of comfortable quiet that only came from actually knowing someone. I love you, Stella said softly. Robert's heart stopped. What? I love you. I've been scared to say it because it felt too soon, too intense. But I do. I love you. I love you too. I have for a while now. Since when? Honestly? Probably since you beat me at rock, paper, scissors and didn't apologize for it. Stella laughed, lifting her head to look at him. That's very specific. You asked. She kissed him then, properly this time. Not the sweet kisses they'd shared before, but something deeper. A promise of everything they could be if they both kept trying. The next month was better. Stella hired an operations manager who took over scheduling and client management. She set boundaries, started saying no to events that would stretch her too thin. Robert started consulting with 3 startups, finding purpose in mentoring without the pressure of building his own empire. They found rhythms that worked. Sunday brunches at her favorite cafe. Wednesday evenings cooking dinner together in her apartment. Saturday mornings at the Seattle farmers markets, a tradition carried over from Portland. It was October 28, 2024, at the Pike Place Market, when Robert decided to take the biggest risk of his life. They were standing in front of a produce stand, Stella examining apples with her usual intensity, when Robert reached into his pocket. Stella. These Honeycrisps are perfect. We should get a few pounds. Stella. What? She turned to face him and froze. Robert was holding a ring. Nothing ostentatious, just a simple band with a single diamond that caught the morning light. What are you doing? Stella whispered. Something I should have done weeks ago. Maybe months ago if I'd been braver. He took a breath. I came to Portland lost, and you found me. You challenged me, frustrated me, made me want to be better than just successful. You fought me over a tomato and somehow that was the beginning of everything. Robert. I know it's only been 4 months. I know we're still figuring things out. But I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life figuring things out with you. I want Saturday mornings at farmers markets and late nights helping you pack up from events. I want to meet your brothers and have your mom interrogate me about retirement planning. I want all of it, as long as it's with you. Stella was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Stella Parker, will you marry me? Yes. God, yes. Absolutely yes. Robert stood and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, which made sense because he'd stolen one of her other rings to get the size right. Stella threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at the same time. The produce vendor started clapping. Then other people joined in, a small crowd gathering to witness this moment in the middle of Pike Place Market. I can't believe you proposed at a farmer's market, Stella said, pulling back to look at the ring. It felt appropriate. Full circle. It's perfect. You're perfect. I'm really not. Perfect for me, then. They kissed while strangers cheered, and Robert thought about how far he'd come from the man who'd fought over a tomato 4 months ago. That man had been lost, searching for meaning in all the wrong places. This man, standing in a Seattle farmer's market with a ring on his fiancée's finger, had found exactly what he'd been looking for. 6 months later, on a sunny April afternoon in 2025, Robert and Stella got married in a small ceremony at the Japanese Garden in Portland. Stella's whole family was there, her mother crying happy tears, her brothers giving Robert the traditional hard time before welcoming him properly. Robert's parents flew in from Arizona, his mother delighted to finally have a daughter-in-law who could cook. Dr. Chen attended as a guest, smiling knowingly throughout the ceremony. Carl the tomato farmer sent flowers and a note, "Congratulations to the couple who proved that true love can start with a vegetable dispute." The reception was catered by Stella's company, naturally. Her team had outdone themselves, creating a menu that celebrated both her southern roots and Robert's more simple tastes. The food was perfect, the celebration intimate and joyful. During their first dance, Stella looked up at Robert and smiled. No regrets. Not a single one. You. Just one. What's that? I should have fought you over a tomato sooner. Robert laughed, pulling her closer. Worth the wait though. Definitely worth the wait. They danced under string lights in the garden where Robert had first really opened up to her, surrounded by people who loved them, building a future neither of them had planned but both of them wanted more than anything. Robert Williams had sold his company and made billions. He'd built empires and negotiated deals and achieved every measure of conventional success. But standing there with Stella in his arms, he realized this was the only thing he'd ever built that actually mattered. A life. A partnership. A love story that started with a tomato and became everything. And every Saturday morning, without fail, they still went to the farmers market together. Sometimes in Seattle, sometimes in Portland when they visited Stella's family. They'd walk hand in hand through the stalls, Stella greeting vendors she knew, Robert carrying the bags. And every time they passed a tomato stand, they'd smile at each other, remembering the day that changed everything. The day Stella Parker fought a billionaire over produce and somehow, against all odds, won his heart.